Lastimosa, hostile Titans inbound.
Was that Titanfall 2 campaign actually any good?
On your head, pilot.
It was well good, and I completely neglected it. There's a few good reasons for that. Titanfall 2 came out with an extremely strong multiplayer. A multiplayer that was so massive that that campaign was really viewed by myself for about 3 hours. Titanfall 2 came out in 2016, and it's an important game because the first one was an Xbox exclusive. This was huge because I had only just got my PlayStation 4 and this was launched on all platforms. Everybody grabbed it. It really was an industry loud noise. Respawn were really just cutting their teeth. Titanfall 1 was an incredible title, and it was only with its success that jealousy was over on the Sony side and that they got the chance to roll this out with EA cross-platform. Respawn have got a bunch of really good people from Infinity Ward, the Call of Duty developers, so the whole thing's kind of insidious. We only need to look at where Respawn are now with the new Jedi games and of course Apex. That brings me on to a fantastic point with this. Actually a massive Apex Legends fan. I play it on a regular basis. I feel it's loads more superior to the Call of Duty Battle Royale because it's got these crazy specials, it's colourful, it's just a lot more interesting stuff happens within it. I didn't spot it at the time when I first looked at Apex, but all of the gun and some of the lore is spread from this game. It's absolutely incredible, especially the guns and the gun ballistics. The flatline is like one of the first weapons you get and you're so at home, and if you've played Apex with the jumping and sliding and wall climbing, you're like, wow, I am in like the best Apex Legends DLC I could possibly play, and it's all single player and it's all offline. What's it performing like? Any PlayStation 5 boost? No. Massive updates. There was nothing focused on the SSD or a version of this to sit on that other drive, but we do see 1080, and what it says is a PEG 60, but it dips everywhere. It's a bit of a shame, but it's still a hell of a performance against the PlayStation 4 Pro, which I remember being a bit sloppy. You'll also recognise one of the greatest shotguns in modern shooter history. An incredible piece of gear, and you get it like in the opening 5 minutes and you get to take down all these wild animals. The sets are amazing, beautiful environment on this planet.
Power at 2/3. Data core reinitialized. Ocular system online.
Let's talk about BT and not the telecoms provider. He's voiced in an almost Transformer-like authority, Optimus Prime level of coolness. It's absolutely amazing, and you connect with each other immediately. The campaign really does develop the friendship between you and this mech because it was someone else's, and you have to sort of impress him and get batteries, run around on this really high production early stage. Things get a little bit more interior as we go through.
My mapping systems have been restored. The ambush of the 9th Militia Fleet has landed us far off course from our original destination.
Jumping and wall running with these higher frame rates still feels really good. This game was well ahead of its time in 2016, and it still feels like something special when you're leaping around these beautiful waterfalls, and the weaponry and all the ballistics and the speed at which you can slide and kill people is very satisfying. It's almost Vanquish level of chaos. Some of the guns have got like a lower number than their Apex Legends equivalent. This is because this game came out a long time before that was even put to development. There's the R201, which is a classic play on the 301 Modern Fruition, and I'm holding a Spitfire, which is the legendary weapon in the entire Apex series, and not a bad plane. The The premise of this entire game is that it's got two modes. One of which is the foot soldier mode, where you're this pilot and you can run around, slide, double jump, wall ride, basically just be a little flea and cause everybody major headache. Or the mech version of in combat, which is chunky, you've got height, you can't really jump, some mechs can, but you're really there to deal damage and take it. The tank equivalent, as you were. You can jump in and out of your mech at any time in the multiplayer. With the campaign, things are a little bit different.
Well done, pilot.
First seeing that transition from being on foot and then inside the mech with that cool split screen when you've got the cockpit interior really was a sort of breathtaking moment. And the transitions between the two game modes, the fact that they're obviously all in the same engine and how the maps are designed to cater for both you out of your mech and in it, is pretty amazing. The mech ownership with the game is a massive thing, but you don't really get to see externally what you look like or different types of mechs. You do get loadouts, which I'll go into in a second. The multiplayer takes the mech ownership really seriously with giving you amazing skins, an actual different type, a lanky one that's fast at running, short, stocky, all different weapons and shield techniques. It's amazing the depth on the different mechs in Titanfall 2. And that was one thing they've got really right with the differences on the campaign with the mechs themselves. In the multiplayer, when you went into a match, you were stuck with the type of mech that you chose prior to the game. But in this, a little touch of the directional button and you can switch out your loadouts to all of the different Titan types within the entire game. You collect them as you go through. It's amazing. And you're like, oh my god, I remember this dude with the massive jump and the really cool District 9 style magnetic Half-Life gun. There's also a very big story, which I wanted to mention. Its structure is rigid and you change environments and deal with different characters on a constant basis, and you're kind of split up with BT, your Titan, a lot. And that brings me on to sort of freedom aspect. It feels a bit shoved when you are and not with your mech. You can't call him in whenever you want. That was one of the joys of the multiplayer, is you tap down, a little circle appeared on the map and a giant 200-ton mech would come flying out of the air. With this, it's very much a scripted basis, but that's fine. That's how the story needs to work. And when you're separated and not near BT, you kind of feel a little bit at a disadvantage, and there's urgency to get back together. And then of course it will shove loads of enemies at you, catered for when you're inside your Titan. There's an awful lot of strobe and electricity and water effects going on within the campaign. It tries to push loads of underground, tunnely style environments. By the way, that was the L-Star, and this is the Kraber. Friggin' legendary one-shot kill in the Apex Legends game. This is a rare drop, and they kind of put it in and put it out with every damned update. They never seem to settle on whether it's going to be in game, but with this campaign you just have it as an alt weapon. Just stop with this Apex gun fanboyism for a second and look at this lighting. Look at the strobes and fans and mist and pipes. It pulls you through all these very tight corridors. It's actually got a stealth mechanic where you can get kills from the back. You never bother doing it though, because the punch is so damn satisfying. There are so many recognizable assets, even with character voices. The Aussie guy has a big role, I think, as one of the villains. Weapon fanboyism aside, this is totally like the first stage of some of the final characters, specials and weapons that we see in the series today. It's a real nostalgia trip, but the gameplay is up to beat. It's so fast. Slide in, double jump in, clearing enemies and just shooting them in the back is so much fun. It happens a lot because the game really wants you to understand that traversal mechanic is a get out of trouble free card, so you're constantly using it and it will push. It's on regular, but it's tested me a few times.
You were not invited to Kane's party, and that's why you're dead.
I really like the idea of individual bosses being personalities and having their own titans, even branded as their own, and different sets of moves. They may have a particular power that's not normal to that titan, and they also have stuff to shout at you whilst you're fighting them. And all of this has loads to do with the story, so the build up to the bigger titans and meaner bosses is totally excellent. Respawn did not half-ass this campaign. It's dawned on me now how much effort went into it. And when you look at other multiplayer or always on online first-person multiplayer shooters. Let's look at Overwatch, for example. They did try some single-player and offline content, but it was really lackluster. It was kind of just horde mode. And we need to look at the Call of Duty series, who have traditionally come out with some cracking campaigns. Not too many recently. Respawn really can't do anything wrong at the moment, apart from the Jedi PC launcher. That brings me on to what actually killed this on a multiplayer level for me, and it would have been the original Overwatch. When Blizzard rolled that out, it was massive, and of course they had the different choices in character, a little bit like the differences in Titan, but it just made such a big noise that I didn't get a chance to go back to this, did not even look at that campaign once, and in 2 years, it's 10 years old, this game. That also brings me on to the absolute stink Titanfall 1 community kicked up when they shut down those servers, right? That game came out in 2014. Now, I do agree with the anger. I think shutting down servers on games that are always online or have their major amounts of content online is a bit criminal. It's difficult to run servers if no one's actually logging in, however. It's only a matter of time before Anthem gets its plug pulled, but having this going still, I was very worried. I thought we might have a Battleborn situation where I turned the machine on. Incidentally, I don't have a PlayStation Network on this account. This is the UAE account, and it might be like, no campaign. You can't log in, you can't have nothing.
I don't see why we need that bloody simulacrum giving us
Watch
orders.
yourself.
I think to have Apex Legends servers running, obviously that game's as popular as it's been, and have these servers running Titanfall 2 from 2016, and bash out 2 amazing Fallen Order and Jedi Star Wars games, I think they're warranted to turn off those 2014 Titanfall 1 servers now. Plus, I think that game is only running on an Xbox One, correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, I've just seen the PC release. I want to briefly cover this level design, because the Titans are one thing, the weapons are another, but being able to bounce around and get behind the enemies and use that slide and the shotguns, it very much comes together with this campaign structure. They've given you enough cover, enough big areas to really utilize all of that height and jumping. This was really a phase that COD went through also, but they didn't execute it very well. The wall riding, jetpack, double jump thing went into Call of Duty big time, but they promptly took it out. Apex stuck with it, thank God. And this game is really the pinnacle of that sort of game design. That's a G7, by the way, called the G2 in this. No more about the weapons, please, Coop. But having these moving platforms, having these factory style areas, big mechanical arms, you get a lot of that in Horizon with interiors. There's a lot of skill involved with navigation. You don't often see that in modern AAA shooters. This is a bit like beats per minute, where you're just constantly looking for a bullet hell free zone, and it's very adrenaline fueled and looks so good on the PlayStation 5. This was a real jaw dropper for me. I had my mouth a little bit open for loads of it, because I knew what was coming and how much more it was going to ramp up, and looking at the different mech weapons and using all those amazing shields and missile launchers, or even half flying in that nimble mech you get towards the end. You might have done a coup and just put this down after you were done with the multiplayer and didn't really remember or play much of the campaign, because it was assumed tack on just a little bit of padded content to make out the disc. Hell no, this is a whole thing in itself. There's flashbacks and time travel and voiceovers and backstories to be found hidden in little packages. It gives you an alternate universe button, which allows you to flip out different universes that have different objects in them, or enemies, depending on what's going on that particular section of the game. It gets so confusing.
With the intruder, but his movement is erratic.
And my biggest freak out was to see a new Apex character appear as a boss in this game from 2016. I didn't make the reference when the character was announced on Apex, but when I saw her pop out of that mech, I was just like, nostalgia feels. This has got it all. If you're a Respawn fan and you loved their series of games with Titanfall and the new Apex Battle Royale, you're going to be so happy with this.
Let's just put a high price on your head, pilot. Dead or alive, that makes you worth something to me.
I detect a breach in the security services building. I will provide access.
Glenn Steinbaum is the voice actor for BT. I've just IMDb'd him. He was in Avengers Assemble as a voice actor as well. Not too sure who he played in that, but it's amazing because he has this like almost Orson Welles prime sound to him. It's very authoritative, gives the game loads of cool emotion as well when you get smashed to bits. That isn't a spoiler. Just lastly, this is a shotgun called the Mastiff, which has won me many a Apex game, and it's great to see it in its early form and doing its job on robots, which is another mention. The robots just aren't mechs. There's also man-sized sort of androids that come at you and break up, almost binary domain style with the red lights. I remember a Call of Duty campaign having some metal enemies, but this takes it to a whole new level.
They were targeting this planet's moon as a test. This damn thing was just a test.
Alright, I think that's my Titanfall 2 shillery over with. I really enjoyed that. This is the Does It Still Stand Up series. There's a whole bunch more. Mad Max is involved. I got the original Spider-Man up there, so have a good look. I'll be keeping this going because there's a few more gems back from at least 2016, 17 and 18. Those 3 years were really busy, so keep your eye on the channel. We've got more couch co-op and split screen content coming up. Going to be moving out of 2016 right up to 2023 with the top RT or ray tracing modes in AAA PlayStation 5 video games. We'll see you then.
Let's just put a high price on your head, pilot.